Lord, great and marvelous, keeping your covenants, merciful God, we have sinned. Chosen iniquity, we have done wickedly, heritage cast to the wind. Promises broken, prophets ignored, all that you've spoken despised, oh Lord.
So Dimitri, where do we start?
How about John, Gospel of John?
Okay, we can start there.
Do you want to start reading something from it right now?
Yeah, good idea. It's just getting on that. So, starting John, just the first chapter, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. So what'd you get out of that?
So, who did it say that the Word was?
It says that the Word was God
Okay.
in verse 1.
Okay. And then, so by the Word, or by God, everything was created, it was saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the
And
beginning
then-
was the Word.
Okay. And doesn't it keep talking about the Word later on?
Yeah, in verse 14, and it says, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. The glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth."
Yeah. I think that's kind of cool there. So it says, the Word became flesh. I think that means, like, the Word became a human, like, took on a human form. So that has to be talking about Jesus there. And that's interesting because, so earlier it said that the Word, this Word was God, and then the Word became flesh. So it's like God became a human when he became Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So to me that's kind of interesting because usually, and like before, I used to think about God as like just this high up being in a throne in heaven that's completely, totally disconnected, like from us, from anything, in life. And but it says that God, he became like one of us. So God is like relatable to us now.
And it doesn't stop there. It says, "And it dwelt among us."
Yeah.
So what does it mean to you when he goes on to say, "And we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth"?
Yeah, so it sounds like it's saying we can learn something about God, about like God's character, by looking at Jesus, that Word that became flesh. Yeah, I think it says something kind of similar to that thought in what was it, like verse 18?
Verse 18. "No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him." I like this verse a lot. It says he's in the bosom of the Father. And like, what is a bosom?
Yeah.
A bosom is that place where a child feels safe. Your bosom is the exterior to where your heart is. A bosom is that space of intimacy between two people. And it says the only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. It's as though Jesus is declaring to us that space, that intimacy with that Father that he had, that love that he had. He's coming basically, right? From 14, the Word became flesh.
Mm-hmm.
The Word dwelt among us.
Yeah.
To share with us that love that God has, that He and the Father had, you know.
Pretty cool.
So that's a good place to start. That was a good idea. And so where are we going now?
Where are we driving?
Yeah.
We're just driving over to the church up here, about another mile. Yeah, and so we can keep talking about John chapter 1. You know, when we get there.
Hey, pause it. Let's look at the list really quick, dude. This is a concert at our church. Friday, June 30th, 7 p.m. Troy Avis Academy Gymnasium, 2777 Crook Road, Troy, Michigan, 48084. Price? Free. That's good, little. We made it to the church. So, Dimitri, where did we leave off?
Yeah, so we just learned about the Word that became flesh, and we determined that's Jesus who became flesh, who became human like one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And basically at this point, leaving off at verse 19, it starts talking about this guy named John the Baptist, and he was this preacher in the wilderness in Israel at that time. And people were coming out to see him, you know. They're like, whoa, like, what's going on with this guy? And people were wondering if he was Jesus, if he was that Word that became flesh, because at this time, you know, a lot of people were expecting who they called the Messiah to come on the scene, you know, which was this Word. But he keeps denying it. He's like, no, I'm not. Like, just real quick, you read in verse 21, he says, they said, what are you then? Are you Elijah? Like, after the first time he denies, I'm not the Christ. They said, I'm not. Are you the prophet? And he answered, no. So, but then later on, Jesus actually does come on the scene. And in verse 29, he says, behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. So he was denying that, you know, I'm not this promised Jesus figure. But look, he was pointing people
He's
to the
here.
rear. Yeah, he's here.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so, and maybe we can pick it up in verse 35.
Okay.
So it says, again, the next day, John stood with two of his disciples, and looking at Jesus as he walked, he said, behold, the Lamb of God. The two disciples heard him speak, and they followed Jesus. Then Jesus turned, and seeing them following, said to them, what do you seek? They said to him, Rabbi, which is to say, when translated, teacher, where are you staying? He said to them, come and see. They came and saw where he was staying, and remained with him that day. Now it was about the 10th hour.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I like 38 when, you know, they go over to Jesus, and Jesus looks at them, and he says, what do you seek? And I think that's a question he asks us now. And when we internalize that question, we find that we actually are seeking. Maybe we didn't even know we were seeking at first, but we ask ourselves that question, and we're like, we are seeking to do what? To fill that void, like the point of life, the emptiness, the purpose of life.
Yeah.
Like we're all seeking for that, right? Fulfillment.
Yeah.
Even in psychology, I learned this in class. You have Freudman, right?
Okay.
He's a psychologist. I don't know if I said his last name right, but anyways, the pinnacle of the human experience, to him at least, was self-realization. He's like, few people have accomplished this, and like, I don't buy into that really.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus says, what do you seek? And naturally, we think that way.
Okay.
And, when we start to get to that point where we know we're seeking, maybe we'll ask, Jesus, where do you stay? Maybe Jesus has something for you. And what's his answer going to be?
Come and see.
Hey, I'm Zach.
I'm Dimitri.
And this isn't just a YouTube channel. We've made ourselves available.
We can take any questions. We can meet with you. We can even do Bible studies.
So our email is in the description below, and we can make things happen. Have a conversation with Christ or about Christ. Sweet.